Hello and welcome to the Room of Lives. I am your host, Neil. Today I will be talking to Travis Heggen. Travis was born and raised in Austin and worked as an art teacher in college and later on in the Boys and Girls Club of America. After that, he worked in the Austin Independent School District as a behavior specialist in the special education department, helping foster-raised children become comfortable with a regular classroom. For the past 4 years, Travis has been teaching at the Shalom Austin Jewish Community Center and only recently became the Mindfulness director of the school and has been teaching mindfulness to children. Okay, so what is mindfulness? In brief, it's the practice of maintaining greater moment-to-moment awareness of your own body, mind, and experiences. Today we'll not expound much more on what mindfulness is, but if you want to learn more about it and perhaps practice it yourself, you can listen to episode 4 of my podcast, where I teach an audience a simple mindfulness exercise for awareness and calm. In today's episode, we will talk to Travis about the challenges in his own life that brought him to mindfulness, why he is teaching it to kids, and how he does it. If you are enjoying hanging out in the Room of Lives, consider donating Ether to abranil.eth. That's ABHRANIL.ETH. Thanks a lot to the both of you for being on my podcast.
Thank you.
At the very beginning, this is what I do in all my podcasts. I would like to sort of begin with a little background of yourself.
Sure.
So, where were you born? Where did you grow up? What have you done in the past? And what is it that you're doing now?
Okay, so my name is Travis Heggen.
Yeah.
So I was born and raised in Austin, Texas, and went to school here, went to high school here, junior high, and then college. After that, I went to a couple colleges. Went to Colorado. I lived in Denver, Colorado for a little while. Mm. I went to school at Regis University and studied fine arts and had a minor in communications. Had a liberal arts degree from there. And then after that, I went to Ringling College of Art and Design in Sarasota, Florida. That's where I studied graphic design, illustration, various other mediums.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so I went to study there and graduated and got a contract job right off the bat here in Austin for 3 months, and it went okay. And I did a couple of pamphlets for Rudy's Barbecue and a couple other places down on 620. But it was a short little freelance gig that I did. And then, delve back to a little bit was when I was in Ringling. I worked at a Boys and Girls Club of America. They work with a lot of underprivileged families, and they have camps and support systems for families that there's a lot of charity, a lot of charitable things that they do. And I went as an art teacher because I was in art school, and I needed to pay my rent, and it was like I liked working with children. I did it with the college I went to in Denver, and so I thought it'd just try it out and try to do they hired me on as an art teacher, and it was incredible. The first time I got to lead a class, it just something clicked. I connected with all these kids. All these kids just would come up to me like I didn't do anything, and they just kind of just had this warm attraction to me. Like they just liked being around my energy, around me. Yeah. I would talk about things, and for some reason they would just be so open, just opening up about the hardest things that they go through, and we just had a great time. And I got to know the owner very well, and he had me come back several times and work as that there. So graduated from there, and when I left and did my graphic design stuff.
So real quick.
Oh yeah.
How old were you roughly when you first had this experience with the kids?
For that, it was probably I I think I was probably like 20, 27, 27 at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was still in college. I was my second parts of college, so and I was mid junior year of my graphic design bachelor's degree that I was getting. So uh, and I worked there from my sophomore year to about the end of my junior year, and then I had to focus on my studies for the rest of the time I was at school. And so after that,
how'd you get a job now?
so when I went back to when I graduated, I came back to Austin, and I had a couple of jobs, graphic designer, and found it kind of difficult to make connections and things like that. So I went with what knew I was really good at, which was teaching and talking to kids, talking to families, and I applied to do the substitute programs for AISD, substitute teacher program, and worked for several schools, had a lot of jobs, and became a student teacher or a teacher assistant for a few years. So that's one of the reasons I remember saying I worked in this area. And Lee Elementary is right down the road.
Yeah.
And I worked there for like 3 or 4 years, and then I had to resign, but that's another story. Had a great experience, but after that, I just still needed to work with kids. I just loved working with them. I had a connection with them. I knew, and the kids I worked with at the school I worked with the SPED department. A lot of the kids that had difficulty.
Oh, SPED means special education.
Ed.
Okay. Yeah.
SPED, and so it's a fast way of saying it. And I worked in the department for behavior specialist with the kids that had a lot of trauma growing up or needed someone to needed the structure for that. A lot of the kids that we worked with were foster raised. Just down the road, there's a junior helping hands home that they would come to our school, and we would cater to them. We would help them, integrate into a classroom so they learn how to be part of the classroom and, kind of get comfortable without lashing out, because they would that was a lot of fight or flight that they were dealing with. And from this, I got really involved in working with a lot of these children that worked with us, and after working with several that really I feel went a long way after I had worked with them, that I needed to keep going. So when I left, I worked in I found another school, a private school in the Jewish Community Center, the JCC of Austin, also Shalom Austin is the name. And I have worked there for the past 4 years as a teacher there, and recently became the mindful director for my whole school. And what I get to do now is work with kids, work with families, and all walks of life, and wanting to connect more with the community in Austin and the community in general, and connect people to the teachings of mindfulness, the crafts of mindfulness, the things that really that we have been lacking in a lot of our school systems and a lot of our education. And I just aim to connect families to this and really allow some really great changes to happen in the education world, where it happens from the inside rather than teachers have the kids actually pave the way for everything, because we're just there to hold space for them as teachers. Kids, it's all about their experience. So that's where I'm trying to bring these lessons in, to allow children and families and kids of all ages just to recognize who they are and what they're capable of, and when they're ready to learn is perfectly acceptable. Everyone learns in a different pace, and that's one of the things that so many schools seem to, bombard a lot of kids with so much information, and they forget that some kids take more time than others. And when a lot of kids get these sensations, they feel bogged down, they feel stressed out, they get into depression, stressed out situations, and and there's a cry for release somehow. How do we release some of this?
I had no idea you were the director of Mindful. That is your new title?
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's like groundbreaking. You realize that, right? How many other schools have that?
I don't know. I know that a lot
That's
of
a huge
this.
thing.
I know that there's a lot of schools around Austin and a lot of places that are trying to implement more of the mindfulness programs. But I don't know if they have an actual. I know there's his last name is Butler. He works at the AISD, and he's the chair of AISD for mindfulness. And he actually worked as a preschool mindfulness teacher as well, who I'm still trying to connect with because of his influence, and he has made a big program out of it. And other organizations have tried and done a lot. I just aim to want to keep it going and not just have it stop with children, but connect it with families, connect it with communities, bring it into even the work world of the society. For when even for adults too, mindfulness for adults is so needed. Even like,
Were you just saying like like a mom came in and said something about how the children are teaching them mindfulness?
yes, there's been
Yeah.
several stories. I love hearing the kids that I work with because they always say like, what are you showing our kids? Because he's at the dinner table, and all of a sudden, like she said, everyone stop, take a breath, and she does my namaste finish and like she really puts her intention and like making her family do this. But when she allows her family to stop, they just get this. They can't believe what's been happening because there's been children that they had her put in this program with me. I have her as a client, so I'm kind of getting off, but I have her as a client, and they wanted her to work with me personally. And over time, she's developed more of a social dynamic, and she's more sociable, and so she's able to bring that home.
So anxiety's down.
Anxiety's down.
Nice.
Energy's up.
So
she's
she had
sleeping better.
Some
She's eating
particular
more.
challenges or issues because of which her parents thought that enrolling her in a mindfulness focused program would be a good idea.
Yes.
And now she's okay.
And now most of the work that I do really it doesn't take very long. Like I really
To see results.
I really strive to say that when people say miracles don't happen overnight, but I've actually seen it a little bit.
Awesome.
So, because I still work with other kids that I volunteer kids if they want to come join mindfulness, and I allow them to join me. And every kid that has, they tend to have this new outlook on what their situation is when they're at school.
Well, I mean, children are like sponges, right?
Oh yeah.
And they believe, if you say the sky is green, they might actually look. So, I mean, they'll believe what you're saying, and that's the beauty of it. If you tell it to an adult, they're like, all right, whatever, dude. But an adult or a child, it's this fresh mind. They just soak it all up.
They're still so new. They're still open to accepting their reality.
Yeah.
And they haven't concluded to anything yet. So this is their opportunity to really learn to access their whole being without any restrictions.
Yeah.
And what I really want to drive home is that these kids should have to learn to read the room. Reading the room is the big thing, because whenever you go into a classroom, whenever a kid goes in a classroom, the first thing a lot of us expect is just somebody talking at you and talking about you to do this one activity, and you don't know what these kids are thinking. You don't know if they're interested, but you're putting this on them. Like, do they have a choice in this? And then you always say like, well, no. And a lot of people say, no, I'm the teacher. You have to listen to me. But it's not about the teacher. It's not about the teacher. Teacher's there to give advice, to guide, to foster, to guide the learning process. And kids at that age, who I work with, 4 and 5 year olds, 3 or 4 or 5, they have so much curiosity still alive that they need as much time to just experience as they need. And allowing that to flow naturally is where I'm trying to push more of my program in. And I'm teaching a lot of the teachers that I work with, changing up the program and going with the flow of the children instead of always be in charge of what we're going to do next. Like, what the kids want. What do the kids want to do? What do you want to learn about?
Yeah.
And how do you want to build this?
So what do you do to like teach the kids this mindfulness? What's like a class? A quick run through. What do you do?
I did want to get to that, but before that, I had a curiosity about how mindfulness came about in your own life. Like, what were the experiences that? Yeah,
no, I remember this one of the topics, and I feel like I've rummaged over a lot of the stuff that we want to talk about, and I'm glad you were able.
But I do
to
want to come back to the specific exercises.
Yeah, I'm glad you zeroed me back, so
so
we can keep the conversation flowing.
Yeah.
But no, it's exciting, and I'm excited because mindfulness really did save my life. I owe a lot to just like a lot of meditation practices, a lot of spiritual awakenings through different facilitators, different programs, and I found that a lot of them really spoke to me in a way that I have I certainly needed it. So I started off going to school with dyslexia. I was a SPED kid. I was special ed, and I had a lot of hard times learning. I was a very shy student, shy kid. I was very quiet in my family. Never really spoke up about anything in my own world, and just not really open to speaking up. And I struggled a lot in school, and I also just had those feelings of being different when I would be put in a special ed class, and I had my whole group, and it was kind of cool. I mean, you kind of consider yourselves kind of like you kind of consider yourselves like the X-Men, I guess, of the school, because you were hanging out with the other sped kids, and but when you leave the classroom, you kind of hear other kids kind of talking down about us, like we're different in a way that isn't up to par with their social dynamics. So it kind of hits us a little bit, and we kind of start feeling it. But for me, like, I had that feeling for a long time. I felt very shy, didn't open up a lot. I was a basic, nerd. I'd like to delve in my comics, get lost in cartoons, and that's where I was drawn to, art and expression. And but what really saved me about mindfulness was when I had all these things happen, a lot of traumas come into my life, personal, and from my schooling, like it was hard for me to finish work. It was hard, and a lot of that was self-worth issues. Self-worth kind of started flooding me with all these like not worthy emotions, not worthy. Unable to move on, and that led me to depression. A lot of people get led to depression this way, and so in those times.
But I just want to kind of understand this a little better. Although this is sort of personal life, I feel like without going into specifics, it's still useful to talk a little bit about this, because to me that's really what points out to the audience what mindfulness is good for. So, for example, in my earlier podcast where I've talked about mindfulness, I talked a little bit about my own personal issues and challenges that it helped me with. So when you're talking about, let's say, self-worth issues, do you think that the forces or the causes that led you to have those self-worth issues were only in school, or also at home and or with friends?
They were all around.
Okay.
I felt it was a worth issue from all around.
Yeah.
I had a good set of friends, don't get me wrong, and we had our own world. But there were times where, I would kind of be considered the shy one in the group, and kind of refrain from talking a lot. So, and I did that out of, just what my past was like not good enough. And, but for the longest time, I just kind of accepted it, and so it just kind of followed me all the way into college years, where one of the things was when I went to school, I had dyslexia. I had a lot of hard times getting through studies. I remember my graduation. Me and my mom were waiting, and I said that we did it, and instead of giving giving it credit that I did it, and I would always do that. I would do that continually, and I held that for a long time. Like even if I didn't accomplish something, I always would find some excuse to like, I did it with this group. We did it together. And instead of taking like, no, you did something with this. You pay attention to your accomplishments. So it took me a long time to do that, but when I found it, it was at a breaking point during a lot of things that happened in my life, personal relationship kind of stuff that really, let me feel.
This was in college, like undergrad?
College, yeah, undergrad.
Okay, and you mentioned earlier that the self-worth issues eventually led to depression. Would you say that period was like high school, college?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I associate a lot of depression with a lot of the past things that I've been through.
Yeah.
That's I have a new definition of depression for myself and for a lot of people. And like maybe it's just me, but my whole thing is that now I see the methods and the techniques that I've learned to stay mindful, to stay focused. I've done a lot of meditation courses. I've done a lot of spiritual healing courses. But whenever I found what I do with kids was so profound. Like when I was with the kids, this natural feeling of shepherding these kids came about, and I felt like there was a purpose for me, and that's one of the things that I really wanted to strive for, is I can understand these kids because I'm listening to them, and I'm learning that the more mindful I am with them, the more mindful they are with me. And every time I reciprocate the mindful techniques and the things that I've been doing with them, it has shown me that you have control of your entire life. And I have finally found that, that self-worth is, I am worthy, I have worth,
And do you find it healing to like, you might see a kid that reminds you of you.
Absolutely.
And for you to help that child be more mindful and to know, and then it's healing because now you're healing, it's like you're healing your child's self almost.
Yeah. No, there's several students that I really kind of connect with that remind me of like something I might have gone through and something that would have been helpful for me.
Someone would have just said, hey, this is how you should do it. Just don't mind them. Just, this is what matters.
Yeah.
If they said that like whenever you were a kid, that would have helped.
It would have been great.
Tremendously.
It would have been great. However, I mean, I am grateful for the lessons that I've had in my life, and I'm not ashamed of them. They would help me bring me to where I am now.
Yeah.
And I can say that because of mindfulness. I can say that because of all the inner work, all the grounding, all the feeling of being here and now and sharing with others and sharing experiences you have. It gave me the whole new definition for myself of what depression is.
Yeah.
And for me, depression, for my definition, I see it is it's a fear that you have not overcome yet. Depression is a fear that you still have to face. And if once you face this fear, a lot of the times the depression will subside.
So you were in the process of telling us how this transformation happened. So you were in undergrad and you were having all of these issues of related to self-worth, and you had depression. So what was the sequence of events, or
basically broke his heart?
I had a girlfriend.
Oh, no, I'm talking about how you encountered mindfulness. Like, when did that happen?
After the trauma, after the pain, there's a man named Scott McClure, and his wife, Melanie McClure. They ran this meetup group here in Austin. It's called Ecstatic Hearts, and they do practices with Tantra. Tantra is a lot of is an ancient practice related to yoga that has been around for eons.
What else is it related to?
Is this a test?
Come on.
I mean, it's related to mindfulness.
And isn't there a form, something else you can use it in?
Oh yeah, I mean you can use it in sexuality.
Oh, that's
I mean,
right. I just wanted you to say that.
You wanted me to get taboo again.
I wanted you to blush a little bit.
No, it's good. It's good for that. So yes, a lot of people associate, the tantra with the sexual world, but it's more than that. It's accepting your whole body in all its functions, it's all its feelings, and it's a practice of truly just going through these practices and experiencing everything around you. And we practice this term in ecstatic arts called witness consciousness. He uses a lot.
But this was happening while you were still like fairly young, like in your college days.
This was like late college.
Okay.
Just about to leave.
Okay.
And I had come home at various times for vacations and stuff, and found these meetup groups, and found Tantra, found the ecstatic arts group, and it really it set the stage for meditation. It set the stage for mindfulness and how to connect the world with this kind of work. And I could apply this to the teachings I work with kids.
So since I started practicing mindfulness meditation, which was about 2 or 3 years ago, I have definitely noticed that my life is more intentional now. I can use, or I can build like new good habits as a tool to drive my life forward, as opposed to being enslaved by habits. So that definitely connects to what you're saying. And the other thing is that now if I notice that there is some kind of friction happening in my life, or something that needs to be improved that requires a certain change of habit, the first thought is a thought of fear. Because every time you need to push yourself to change a habit, there's a certain fear associated. And what I've noticed is with my practice of mindfulness meditation, the level of that fear has reduced.
Wonderful.
And the level of confidence that I will be able to stick to something and create a new habit has sort of increased. And even if there are little failures here and there in the process of trying to change something about my life, I think I'm much better at responding to those failures and not letting them completely making me completely abort the whole process of trying to make this change.
I think that you should just have no fear at all.
I think fear is a useful tool, though.
I know. I think it's a killer of all good things.
Interesting.
I forget, there was one, I read a book and it said that fear is the worst emotion that humans could have. Because
Sometimes
it stops them from
would
living
like
and living
agree with
life.
Travis, though, in certain specific contexts, I feel like...
Nate, give me one scenario.
Okay.
I bet you I can beat that.
So, I go climbing very often, and if you're about to make the wrong move, you get a very visceral sensation of the fear of falling.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, one of the reasons I do climbing is to regularly feel that fear and to sort of learn from it, to see where that fear is exaggerated versus where that is very natural. So I think a good thing is to calibrate your mind and body so as to respond appropriately to fear, as opposed to respond too much.
Appropriate to you.
Yeah. So I want to ask you specifics about the mindfulness practice that you've used on yourself as well as on the kids. Yeah. But before that, I have a couple of quick questions. You talked about the self-worth issues and the depression that you were experiencing before you encountered Tantra and mindfulness. How would you characterize those issues as having improved or not in the years since with your mindfulness?
And since I consider that part of my life something that if I could go back in time, I could actually tell myself something. And I know that there are ways to get through what I was going through, and that mindfulness meditation was the way. And backtracking from where I came from, that would have never happened. I was still a shy boy. I was still hiding in my room. I would never come out to socialize with anybody. I was very quiet and very just like like my roommates would have to pry me out of my room just to get a light of me because they liked hanging out with me, but I never saw it, because I had a lot of self-worth issues, and I was like, like, you guys are cool, but now I can go into scenarios and control it and know that I'm in control.
In the past, in the first time that we met, I participated in a mindfulness exercise that you put us through, which was like a room full of adults, not kids. But you didn't say that this is an exercise that you use with kids. So Could you describe some of these, very specifically, the exercises that you use with your kids?
Yeah.
And with the following in mind, that some of the people who are listening to the podcast now might want to, use this exercises themselves. Yeah. So be as descriptive as possible.
Absolutely. That night was very profound, and and I was very fortunate to experience sharing those techniques with all those adults that attended. And so what I was focusing on that night was where your sense of fight or flight comes from. And I notice for when I'm working with kids, when they react to a certain way, a lot of their sinuses get real flared up. And a lot of them either, have a hard time breathing or start sniffling a lot, or there's a lot of red in their face. You can notice like pigmentation in their like under eyes, and it's noticeable. It's almost like if you're waking up from a nap or anything like that. But anyway, so what I want to do with what I did with y'all was I would bring a sense of that feeling, and what that connects us with is what we remember being children, what it feels like to be children again. So when you can start having the senses in your sinuses start to, I don't know, you kind of tickle your sinuses a little bit. You sneeze sometimes, or you get those ticklish, joyous feelings. And what I was aiming to do, which it seemed to work, was...
I remember what you had us do on that particular night was you had a toy box, and you had us pick a toy and then lie flat on our backs and put that toy on our chest and watch it rise and fall as we are breathing. Is that the same exercise that you're talking about now?
This is a separate one, but it's in the same thing. I'm talking about when we first got into the mindfulness. Like my introduction was, "Hi, my name's Travis. Here's what we're gonna do." So what I did was we had a breath, and when we were focused on the breath out, we made this sound. It sounded like a laugh. It sounded like a laugh, and that laugh is when you continually do this vibration in your brain, allowing it to flow in and out, it allows you to kind of surrender to the present. Also, it also connects you to your child a little bit, because what I brought into it was at the end of the breath was a little laughter. So I can do an example.
Yeah,
if you'd like me to.
We can both do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So what we did was we take a deep breath in, and then when you breathe out, you focus it going outward through your mouth, through your nose. So.
Okay, so it's like a really full breath that's coming out.
It's pushing all the breath out. Yes.
Okay.
It's a natural laughing sensation, and you already get those good feelings coming out. So breathe in.
I see. Okay.
And we keep doing that, and
that's pretty funny, by the way. That although there's nothing funny happening otherwise, just this act of doing this elevates your mood as well.
It elevates your mood. It elevates your feelings, and allows you to enjoy some play. And so,
are you breathing out both through your nostrils as well as your mouth as you're doing this?
Well, yes, you are. You're breathing out through your nose and your nostrils, nostrils and your mouth at the same time. Yeah. And what it does is it gives you that tickling sensation. So one more time, I'll do it one more time. You breathe in. And it's a natural, and you're breathing naturally. It's a natural breath, and it's releasing all at the same time. But at the same time, it's stimulating this area. It's lifting. It's sort of a wake up. It sort of helps wake up the brain again. And so when we were doing that with our mindfulness, I was able to get you guys to play as children and to be animals, to try different movements. What does it feel like to be a dog? What does it feel like to be a cat? And we were a little rushed because we wanted to make sure we were sharing time with the event that was happening. But the last event that you touched on with the toy on your tummy, this is called the buddy breathing. I call it. It's a technique that a lot of that I've read a lot in a lot of research, and I use it a lot at my schools, in my lessons. So a lot of the kids will get loveys or a toy and put it on their belly. And what you're doing is you see if you can get it to where you can, notice what you're looking at, notice the animal, notice the toy. Like having kids use stuffed animals or animals of some kind with eyes so you can maybe make eye contact. And you get the sense of, see what you can do. How would you calm your lovey to sleep? How would you calm your toy on your belly to sleep? And the moment you start thinking about how you would calm it down, you're calming whatever you have on your tummy down, and you just kind of lose yourself in that moment, and it starts rising and falling, rising and falling, and pretty soon there's only this motion happening. And there's a great exercise to do right before you have kids that nap time. It's a perfect technique to use before they go down for a nap, because we come off of the playground a lot, we come off of lunch, and it's a great way to help nourish and get all those things that you've experienced and just have it calm down. And a lot of the students that I work with, their sleep is improved. They get fuller nap time, where a lot of the time, there's a lot of kids lying awake, they can't go to sleep. But when they're calm and in a state of, just relaxation, they can ease into it and allow the sleep to take on. And so from what I was doing with the group, I just wanted y'all to experience that and experience what it's like to, have the joy of being a child and play and enjoy that. And we need that. And also some of the techniques that we would do. So laying down, we were getting ready for like a pseudo nap. And so it's just kind of it's a calming method.
I see. So with these exercises, you have got benefits with these children.
My God!
Benefits, yeah.
I said earlier, I work with a lot of kids in the preschool, and a lot of them take transitions differently. So a lot of them don't like transitions and they don't like change. So whenever they come up to a change of situations, that they don't know what to do, because they're not ready to give it up. They're not ready to stop. And a lot of kids, what they'll do is they'll throw a tantrum, they'll get angry, they'll whine, they'll cry, because they're just expressing that they're not done. So what we do in those moments,
Adults do that.
We do it all the time. And what we do is, since we're working with so many kids and everything, we want everyone to be on the same page. And so we allow everyone to help one another. We make sure everyone feels like they're helping, they're picking up after themselves, helping the other. So say some of the kids get really emotional for not being able to finish this. Kids, I've been able to allow them to do breathing exercises and take a breath, drink some water, notice the coolness as it goes down. And when they take the swallow, I have them listen to the swallow. And when they're done, they kind of open their eyes and they come out of it, and they lose that sense of fight or flight. They lose that sense of
anxiety.
Anxiety. It's a I was looking for another word, anxiety, but his trauma or whatever.
Just this
like
sense of
losing
being ruffled up.
losing control, and so he freaks out. But that's awesome.
And every time I've worked with these kids for a few months now, and I mean, you see the difference in them, that they slow down. When at first they would be running around, they don't know how to stop, and they would trip on their own feet and they would scrape their knee. And now the kids will, they'll slow down. I mean, that's the thing, they slow down.
So you have been using these mindfulness exercises on special ed students and getting results. But would you recommend, do you see reasons to have all students?
Oh, he has all kinds.
It's not just that now. I work with all levels.
Now it's the whole school,
it's
right?
The whole school. Some of them are just as, and they don't have. I mean, I feel like there's no labels anymore. Everyone's just mindful.
That's awesome.
So you see good reasons for introducing mindfulness as part of early school curriculum?
It has to be. This is the most lucrative age for children to learn stuff. They're experiencing stuff for the first time. Everything they're experiencing is new. And for them to be aware of regulation skills at this early age is going to benefit them and tremendously. And it's been said, but it's so true, because they now have the tools to prepare themselves for
adulthood,
the anxiety of adulthood.
All right. Well, that brings our conversation to a very playful conclusion.
Absolutely.
And I would like to thank both of you for
great.
spending your time.
I'm so happy I
here.
got to express the power and passion that is mindfulness.
Good birthday present.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. I hope that you enjoyed this conversation and that you will drop by again. Until then, so long and take care.